Football is in the air and the Pittsburgh Steelers season is on the horizon. And on this episode of Mic Drop here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and, of course, SteelersNow.com, I'm going to focus on a couple talking points that are being discussed right now, but are very likely to remain question marks headed into the season and then beyond. I'm your host, as always, Mike Asti, and we are going to talk about JuJu Smith-Schuster, the superstar of this team, of course. Everyone knows his name, polarizing or not, his future in Pittsburgh, and some comments that he said recently. And then we're also going to discuss the future of the quarterback position, or more importantly, the current immediate future of the backup quarterback position, and if there's a controversy there that could bleed into 2022. So to get things started, JuJu is back as a Steeler. I was wrong. Many of my colleagues were wrong. Many people, if they're being honest, were wrong. I really thought, I did past shows on it, I guaranteed it everywhere that would hear me that JuJu wouldn't be back as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Didn't see it. Thought if he wanted the money, it would be elsewhere. Didn't have a great year. Didn't think the mega deal was going to happen with the Steelers after what they just dealt with AB. Knowing the JuJu situation, knowing the years he's had recently and maybe what's going on with him overall, didn't think they would want to shell out the cash, and even Chase Claypool's emergence, his fabulous rookie year, would hurt JuJu in coming back. But as JuJu put it, the salary cap was not great. It's going to be better next year. No one really got truly paid as a receiver this past season, and JuJu is back. JuJu had to take some humble pie, whether he wants to admit it or not. He did not have a mega deal out there. Yes, he did have the Chiefs flirt with him. Yes, he did have the Ravens flirt with him. Yes, the Eagles were even in rumors for JuJu. And he talked about how he almost signed with the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes would be great. He'd have him for the next decade. That sounded like more of a multi-year contract. They've obviously been an elite team. That's an elite quarterback, an elite offense. Would be great for him, probably better numbers. Would that show he's the number one? No, because you have Travis Kelce there. You have Tyreek Hill there. You have a great offense. He would not be the focal point by any means, but his numbers could be great like they were with AB. The Ravens, he admitted he didn't think he could ever do that because he'd be hated by Steeler fans, or at least a lot of them, since that's a rival. So claims he didn't really take that seriously. But in all reality, and kind of what he's said and reading between these lines, he knows the money is more there next year. He knows the money wasn't there this past offseason, and he is back for one more year. He can keep talking about loyalty. I'm not saying he doesn't like Ben or he doesn't see any loyalty there, but if a mega deal was out there, if somebody was going to offer him a mega deal, a several-year contract for tons of money with a guarantee, he would have taken it. Okay, he didn't just come back and turn down tons of cash and long-term deals. Those weren't that great, and maybe a little more overall, but he turned those down to come back to the Steelers, try it one more time, get the band back together, as he said, and have another year with Ben Roethlisberger, hoping for Ben Roethlisberger's health. We'll get to that in a moment. But more importantly to what JuJu said recently to the media of what he wants out of the year, because we know he wants money. We know he wants to ball out. We know he wants to have a better season, and some could try to spin the numbers last year and claim that he still had an elite year. He didn't. His yards per catch weren't there. He wasn't getting the separation. Individually, he wasn't that great. He was good. He's good. It's not like he's bad. It's not like he's not going to help you. He certainly has his moments. He is a good player. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying JuJu sucks, but his greatest years, his elite years, were with AB as the number one, gaining the double coverage, making it easier on him, AB being the player that defenses schemed against, not JuJu. And I'm not sure last year they weren't scheming against Chase Claypool more than JuJu, especially after Chase Claypool got going with his touchdown streak and how great of a rookie year he had, very similar to what JuJu did a couple years earlier when entering the NFL. So JuJu wants to play better. He's hoping a full year of Ben, he can give him that. He wants the money. He knows the cap's better next year, so regardless how he plays, he'll at least potentially get more money. He even basically said, if somebody offers me several years, I'm going to have to go. Pretty much. I mean, it's clear that I can almost guarantee he's not back next year, especially if he has a monster year that many of you are predicting that I just don't see. But more importantly than all of that, because He's back as a Steeler. He can be productive. He's not a number one to me. He's not a Pro Bowler perennially to me. He's better as a number two to me. He's good. He's not necessarily great. He's had his bad moments that many of you want to cover up, and people are scared to criticize JuJu. They hate criticizing JuJu. They love him as a person more than even as a player, and there will be people out there who will ride with JuJu to no end. They probably even would have done so had he joined the Baltimore Ravens, even if he didn't believe that. There are JuJu sycophants, to say the very, very least. But he also said that he wants to play more outside. Now, that's part of the money. He knows if he can improve himself and impress outside, that's number one receiver stuff. That's more money. A great year, even better than last year, mostly in the slot, isn't going to get him an incredible payday. Might get him a multi-year contract with a better salary cap, but it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to bring the brink truck to Pittsburgh to pick him up and take him wherever. Okay. He wants to be outside because he knows that's how he truly can become a number one if he plays well there. For me, I don't care, JuJu. You're back. It's great. You can help the team. I'm glad you're loyal. Yeah, the cap will be better next year. Maybe it's a solid business move if you don't get hurt. Okay? True. But JuJu Smith-Schuster is better in the slot. So are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to forgo what's best for the team for the individual benefit of JuJu trying to get his cash for next year to redo an offseason that he screwed up and didn't happen for him a year earlier, his fault or not, a pandemic or not? But again, he didn't have a great year. He had a good one, not a great year, leading into a contract year. Not the best idea. No, they shouldn't. They're not going to. And yes, he alluded to the fact that he's seen some time in the outside before, more so in practice with Matt Canada. Sure, but then he also literally said that so has Claypool, the guy behind me there in the video. And we're going to have a JuJu clip up for you here coming up on Pittsburgh Sports Live as well. But everyone's going to play outside. Matt Canada moves him around. We have a story over there on Steelers Now that discusses this. He's not going to have just one guy outside all the time, one guy in the slot all the time. He's going to mix and match. But what he's going to find out while doing so is that JuJu's better in the slot. JuJu Smith-Schuster is flat out better in the slot. He is a good receiver through what his career has shown us. Maybe better than good. I don't know if he's great yet. He's certainly not a number one. He has not proven that. But if you put him in the slot, maybe he can be a top slot guy. Is it being a top slot guy better than not being that good outside? And yes, he's had his moments outside. We've seen the 90-plus yarder going the distance. And he's had his bad moments inside or outside with those fumbles to lose those critical games and derail those years. And yes, he's a physical receiver. He can lay down a hit. He gives you that Hines Ward feel as well with a stiff arm. He can do it anywhere. He can go through the middle. He's not afraid. That's a lot of kudos to JuJu. That's great. But he's not – I can't say he's a burner. I can't say he's incredible outside. He's okay. He's better inside. I asked this on Twitter. I couldn't get a legit reason. Why do you want JuJu Smith-Schuster on the outside exclusively? He brought up even Ray McCloud should play more in the slot than him. That's crazy. Ray McCloud has been better as a returner than a receiver. He's suspect really at both. He's mostly brought in to be a returner. Yeah, you got to get some looks as a receiver too, and they need the depth. But if you're looking at Ray McCloud to do anything for you as a receiver at all, when you have James Washington, Chase Claypool, JuJu Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron, Pat Freiermuth, etc., you're in trouble, okay? And, of course, Najee Harris as the top running back now. And say what you want about that draft pick, it should make the running game better. This offense should be better. Matt Canada now able to implement his plays for a full year rather than just sprinkling them in and then having it go away for a couple games. This should be a better offense. This is the offensive coordinator many of you have wanted for a while, and especially we're calling for last year when everybody wanted Randy Fichtner's head. How quickly will people turn on Matt Canada? We will wait and see. I'm sure that'll happen sooner than later. Steelers fans love to pick on the OC, and when in doubt, blaming the OC from Todd Haley, even when they were scoring points, to Randy Fichtner to now. But you have your guy, and nobody's going to have a legit position necessarily. It is going to be mix and match. Everyone's going to get their time. If JuJu wants to prove he's an outside guy only and wants that money as an outside guy, he's going to get his looks. He's going to get his time, but he is better in the slot. If he wants to exclusively be on the outside and they cave in, that's caving into the personality of JuJu because people like him. And he goes to dances with underprivileged kids and he donates a lot and he shows up at the mall and gives his black card and just buys everyone shoes, helps homeless guys. Fantastic. Great stuff. I'm not knocking the social media antics. Do you, JuJu? Well, they've been annoying in the past and certainly not the greatest look while they were losing, but I'll digress. JuJu's better in the slot. Maybe Chase Claypool's the outside guy. I've seen James Washington burn him. He can turn on the Jets. He might be the fastest guy on that team. I'd like to see James Washington get more time, get more looks, get more targets this year than before. Because when he does, he's great. He just very rarely gets the football. One game and 2-3 games until we see him again. I want to see more from James Washington. I'm not saying you don't involve JuJu. He definitely has a place in this team next year. I don't think he's back the year after that because he's going to realize this ain't going to work for him. If he wants his big money, someone will pay it when the cap's higher. I don't think he's going to have much better of a year this year than he had last year, regardless of Big Ben. And I just don't think the Steelers are going to pay him a mega deal. So unless it's another 1-year humble pie deal, I think he's gone. But you got to play him in the slot more. He can be great in the slot. He can be okay outside. He's had his moments outside, sure, you can point to. But JuJu's better in the slot, and he can demand what he wants. The Steelers shouldn't cave in. Now, to pivot to something that may also be part of a conversation that exists all next year and be part of the future of the Steelers, something that's in doubt. What do they do at the receiver position? Who plays the slot? Who plays inside? JuJu, when is he gone? Who is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers come 2022? That's a question I want you to simmer. Right now, many thought it would be Mason Rudolph. I think he still has the edge. Mason Rudolph playing that game against Cleveland at the end of the year last year, playing well in that game, well enough for them to win that game. Obviously, we know what happened with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges a year ago. No, they weren't, or 2 years ago. No, they weren't great. Ben was out. The team didn't make the playoffs. They would have made it under this current rule, under these current format. They would have actually made it. They were a game away. And with Mason Rudolph and Duck, so with a GQ model and a guy named Duck, they almost made the playoffs. And I even said then Mason was way better than Duck. Many were on the Duck train. Mason was better than him. But you're throwing him to the fire. He wasn't ready for that. You can't really judge off that. He's looked good since. Steelers have really been raving about him, Kevin Colbert in particular, Ben Roethlisberger. Many on the Steelers have just been talking about the progress of Mason Rudolph and played well in that game last year. So you enter this offseason thinking, okay, he's the backup this year. Ben's back. No one thinks Mason Rudolph's great. He's not elite by any means. I don't know if you want to give him the keys to the Cadillac, but he's a good backup at the minimum, and he's been better, and he's going to be the guy. Then they bring in Dwayne Haskins, bounced from Washington as a former first-round pick, tons of talent there. We're hearing about the arm strength. And obviously the off-the-field stuff is his issue. If he can get that right, there's talent there. Maybe he'll be that first-round pick for the Steelers for the future after Ben if they can't find it in the draft. And maybe that's low-risk, high-reward. It really is low-risk, high-reward. Bringing in Haskins is not a bad move. But after hearing all the praise about Haskins to this point in the offseason, coupled with all the praise we've been hearing about Mason Rudolph now for the past year and a half, and what we've seen on the field, and that he's been better than Haskins on the field, in totality the last 2 years from what Haskins did went out there for the Washington football team. For me, Mason Rudolph has the edge, but there is a quarterback controversy. There is a backup quarterback controversy. Haskins is loved. He has the talent. He is the most talented man on this roster, maybe including Ben because of Ben's age in terms of quarterbacks. So could he beat out Mason Rudolph in training camp? Could he become the backup this year? Maybe. Do I think they're going to go into the season with Mason Rudolph as the backup? Yes. I think if Ben goes down, Mason comes in. He has the experience. He knows the Steelers, even if they're both learning a new offense. He still knows Canada better from last year than Haskins would. Canada was there, even if not the OC. And again, they also like Mason Rudolph. So I think Mason Rudolph gets the first crack at things. Does he have someone better breathing down his neck than Duck Hodges? Yes. Haskins has the talent. Maybe he can turn it around. If he can turn his life around, that can certainly help him. And he certainly can breathe down his neck. We put up the poll there on Steelers Now, so I am curious your opinions. Right now, if I had to bet, I don't believe Ben plays beyond this coming season, no matter how well or poorly he plays. I believe this is it. He wants to try it one more time. I don't think it's going to be that great. I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden horrendous. I think they're going to be a middle-of-the-road team, He's going to have a middle-of-the-road season, and he's going to go in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Haskins, he might impress in camp. We've seen Mason impress in camp and then bump out Josh Dobbs a few years ago. So camp can change things, change people's mind going in. Dobbs, I don't think really there's any hope there. I don't think they're going to go bring in some veteran. We talked about Sam Darnold in the offseason. We talked about others. Steelers just weren't going to do it, even though I would have liked bringing in Sam Darnold. I think Mason Rudolph is going to be the Steelers starting quarterback come 2022 week 1. Like it or not, and I know many hate him and say he sucks and doesn't have it. If you're only grading that off of 2019, that's unfair. Thrown to the fire, no experience, wasn't ready for it, played okay at times, not great, did have the handcuffs on. Duck wasn't better. The team did actually win some games. Maybe if they kept him in there instead of Duck, they actually would have got in the playoffs. And he's not dynamic, but he became more dynamic as the season progressed. Played well in that game at the end of the year against the Browns and has looked good in every other moment. So he's been better. He's had the experience. Unless they bring in something else, I don't think some rookies there in the draft. I don't think they're bad enough to draft anybody like that. I don't think they throw in a rookie to the fire either, with still potentially a good veteran roster, a good team with many coming back this year. Even if they're not a championship team, which I don't think they are, they're not going to be a 2-win team either. Then Mason Rudolph will start week 1 come 2022. Like it or not, that's what I think is going to happen. Will he be the guy for the next 10 years and win championships, as there have been a couple of Hall of Fame quarterbacks to do that with the Steelers, Terry Bradshaw and, of course, Ben Roethlisberger? Will he take over for Ben like Aaron Rodgers for Favre, like Steve Young for Joe Montana, like Tom Brady for Drew Bledsoe, like even Andrew Luck for Peyton Manning? Probably not. Probably not. Is he that guy I'd want doing that in the future? No. But will he be the starter come 2022? I think so. I think Mason Rudolph's the starter come 2022. Are there worse backups out there? For sure. Is he a good backup? Yeah. Is he a great backup? Maybe, actually, as he progresses. Is he a great starter? No. Is he a good starter? Who knows? But Haskins just doesn't have it either. There's a lot more question marks around Haskins. Could he beat him out as the backup? Sure. But for me, Mason Rudolph becomes that backup, becomes the number 1 guy under Ben, and becomes the starter when Ben does leave. And I do think Ben does leave after this next season. Mason, again, the only guy currently under contract. That'll do it for this edition of the show. I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. Free to do so, thanks to our sponsors. I help us get all of our content to you, whether we upload something, release it, it goes live, all to you. Thanks to that subscribe button. Follow us also on Twitter at PGH Steelers Now, at PGH Sports Live, and of course, hit up SteelersNow.com for all our off-season Steelers coverage as we again head towards a fast approaching regular season. That training camp's really going to be speeding up. Got to get a honeymoon taken care of before that, but then training camp, Hall of Fame ceremony, preseason, season, the grind's coming, and it's coming fast.